Now, let me try a few more questions. Similar type of question on page 187. Okay. Okay, now let's look at this question. See how do you simplify this. Okay, this one, let's write here, 15 sine square theta cotangent square theta. Okay, now sine square theta. Remember, sine theta and cosine theta, normally we cannot split it further. Okay, whereas for tangent we can actually split it into cosine and sine. Okay, so when you have term which contain cotangent or tangent, sometimes we can use the identity to simplify it straight away. Okay, but if that is not possible, then you just simplify the cotangent or the tangent into sine and cosine. Okay, so in this case, cotangent is 1 over tangent square theta. The square is here. Now, then you further time. This is actually sine square theta over cosine square theta. Okay, then this sine square theta time. Okay, now you turn this upside down. Okay, because you are divided by fraction, so this become cosine square theta over sine square theta. You can cancel this. You end up as cosine square theta. Okay. Now, so that would be the simplest way of simplifying this. Okay. Now, let's look at the more difficult question over here, or this one, 15. Okay. Now, question 15 seems to be more complicated. Let's try this. So it's cosecant square theta minus cotangent square theta over, let me rewrite this question 15. Cosecant square theta minus cotangent square theta over 1 minus cosine square theta. Okay. Now, if we don't use the identity in this question to simplify the expression, we can actually convert all this into sine and cosine, and then you simplify from there. Okay, that may not be the fastest way, but it still can be done. Okay, but it will take a much longer time. But if we use the identity, then this will be very fast. We can solve it in a very short time. Now, let's look at the third identity. Okay, let's look at the first identity, sine square. In case you forgot, then you can start from scratch the first identity, which you will not able to forget, because simply as sine square theta plus cosine square theta. Now, you got a cotangent. So cotangent, basically we want to wait. Cotangent sine. Okay, so divide by square theta. This also sine square theta. This also sine square theta. This is basically, if you forget the identity, you can work from the very basic, from the first identity. So this one cancel, become 1. This cosine over sine become cotangent square theta. This is 1 over sine square theta, which gives you cosecant square theta. Now, if I make this term and move it to the right hand side of the equal sign, then 1 become cosecant square theta minus cotangent square theta. So you look at this, cosecant square theta minus cotangent square theta is exactly this, which is actually equal to 1. Okay, now let's go back and use the first identity. Okay, this identity. Now, let's make sine the subject, this one, the original one. Sine square theta, the subject, should become 1 minus, this is cosine square theta, bring it to the right hand side, become minus 1 minus cosine square theta. 1 minus cosine square theta, in this case, actually becomes sine square theta. So this can become 1 over sine theta square. 1 over sine theta is actually cosecant theta, and you have a square here. Okay, that's it. Now, if you look at this, wait, not this, okay. You see, the one that I work out for you, 15, you got a square here, you got a square here, a square here. So most likely you see teacher have used the identity. But for example, this case like 17, I don't see a square here, I don't see a square. So most likely to simplify this, you have to combine all the terms into sine and cosine. Okay? For example, this one, you got square, square. So most likely you will use the identity. But for example, this one, you don't have a square on all this. So most likely you will not use the identity. But you resort to using the break down the cotangent into the tangent into sine and cosine, so that you can simplify them. Okay, now let's try this 17. Sine theta plus cosine theta. Remember, I say there's no square term, so most likely you have to break down all the tangent or cotangent into sine and cosine. So this 1 time tangent theta, and this is equal to sine theta plus cosine theta times 1 over sine theta over cosine theta. Okay, then you have to flip this upside down, so it becomes sine theta plus cosine theta. So this flip up become cosine theta over sine theta. Okay. Now further to this, let's sine theta plus cosine square theta over sine theta. Okay. So now we have changed all the tangent or cotangent into sine and cosine. Now it's time for us now to combine these two terms. Let's make them have the same denominator. So this sine theta, let's make it sine theta again. So it's sine theta times this. So it becomes sine square theta plus cosine square theta cosine theta. Okay, now since they have the same denominator, so we can combine the numerator. So it's sine square theta sine square theta plus cosine square theta cosine theta. Okay, now it's time to use the first identity. Sine square theta plus is equal to 1 over sine theta, which is actually cosecant theta. That's it. We have simplified 17 into this. Okay. I want you to try to do, let's say, 12, 14, 16, or 18. 18 is a slightly difficult one, but I would want you to try. Okay. Now, then you have 19. Okay. Let's see. Let's try 19. Let me show you how to do 19. Secant square theta cosine theta minus tangent square theta. Okay. Now, let's see whether we can use the identity to simplify. Okay. Okay. This is the second identity. Second one. The third one. Let's see. We review the third one. See whether we can do anything. Third one is divided by cosine. Okay, sine square theta over cosine square theta plus cosine square theta equal to cosine square theta equal to 1 over cosine square theta. This one become tangent square theta plus this cancel become 1 equal to secant square theta. Okay. Now, let's see whether we can use this to simplify this. Okay. Now, actually, for all these, you can try different way. Okay, that's not restricted to one way only. Now, tangent square theta. If I bring the 1 over here, tangent square theta is actually secant square theta minus 1. So I'm going to replace this tangent square theta with this. Okay, now, so minus secant square theta minus 1. Okay, now so I got secant square theta cosecant square theta minus secant square theta plus 1. Now, let's look at the first, second term. They have a common factor. Oh, sorry, this is secant. Teacher wrote it wrongly. Actually, this is secant square theta. Okay, so the first term and the second term got a common factor, which is secant square. So I'm going to combine them and take out the common factor, which is secant square theta. Okay, secant square theta. So here I got cosine square theta minus 1. Okay, plus 1. Now, this seems to be same as the first identity. Okay, now, if I move the 1 over here, become cosine square theta minus 1, move this to the left hand side, and then this move to the right hand side, become minus sine square theta. Okay, so in other words, this can be written as minus sine square theta plus 1. Okay, now, so this is minus secant theta over wrong. Okay, now this actually 1 over cosine square theta minus sine square theta plus 1. Okay, now so this become minus sine square theta over cosine square theta plus 1. This gives you a minus tangent square theta plus 1. Now, if you look at this identity, okay, wait, we make a mistake. We make a mistake here. That's why here we cannot combine. Okay. Wait, is there a mistake here? Tangent minus 1 O okay. So no mistake is committed. Therefore, the final answer is minus tangent square theta plus 1. Okay. Now, is there any other way to simplify this? Let's try. Okay. Now, just now what we do is to convert the tangent. Okay. Now, let's don't use the identity. Let's simplify everything into sine and cosine term. Now, so this is 1 over cosine square theta. Cosecant is 1 cosine times cosine square theta minus tangent square theta. This one cancel. Become 1 minus tangent square theta. Okay. So this become minus tangent square theta plus 1. Okay, do you see that? This is so much simpler if you convert the secant square theta into 1 over cosine. Okay, so there's many ways of simplifying. Okay, depend which way you look. Some will take us so much longer. Like for example, we do this, it takes us so much longer step to achieve this final one, compare with this one. So be very careful. If you continue to work on this question, we will develop the ability to able to see which way will give you a faster method, a shorter step. Okay, but it have to come from keep on doing those questions, similar questions. You will develop the ability to see what is the best way, the shortest way, the most simplified way. Okay.